Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack. Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
It may be a day late, but it's certainly not $1 short. Brian Twining and I are in to recap all that was Martinsville, talk our bets, talk our DFS, update everything, and get you set for Darlington, where I have yet to make a bet, which is interesting. We'll see what Brian has to do. But Brian Twining, we had ourselves a week. Homestead was nice. But Martinsville, even with like the week I was coming in, I was like, I don't know, none of this feels good.
Yeah.
Boy, did we find some value, and boy, did we cash some tickets.
Yeah, this was probably the first race all year where I feel like the initial lean immediately after practice and qualifying wound up coming home as the biggest win of the weekend. And that was Denny Hamlin, 8-1 we grabbed when we recorded on Saturday. I had said, like, to me, that was the best outright number on the board. And sure enough, it was a throwback in the sense of the words of Denny Hamlin going out there and absolutely throttling the field. And quite honestly, had we had more extended green flag runs, I think we see more guys a lap down and Denny actually dominate the field even more than we did, even though he still led 274 of the 400 laps. Stage 3, like, I thought we were headed towards an Xfinity style finish of this race with just a bunch of cautions coming in a very short amount of time. And of course, you're sitting there, we're holding Denny, who's the best car in the last stage, wondering when is this caution going to come out that's going to kill us? But thankfully it didn't. He came home, as Wormy likes to say, the thing stayed green at the end, which allowed us to cash his tickets as he extended his lead out to like 3 seconds to second place. Christopher Bell showed up in a way that I didn't expect him to. He performed really well. And of course, I am not going to end this long ass intro without recognizing our buddy Bubba Wallace, who continues to tell the haters STFU and just continues to show that he is amongst maybe that second group of guys now in terms of competitiveness on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, we are a little bit late on this episode. I threw my back out on Sunday, so that was really fun. Luckily, having that Hamlin ticket was able to help me medicate myself through the weekend. Brian's still dealing with whatever he picked up in Miami. So it's just been a rash of old man abilities over here, or lack thereof. So we are happy that we are here. We appreciate everybody's patience with the episode, and let's get into the week that was before we recap the week that is. Denny Hamlin, 8-1, cash it. I got Byron over Bell after practice. I thought that was a good bet.
Felt good.
Bell was awesome, as you mentioned. He was really, really strong all day. We'll look at DFS here in a little bit, but kind of split the baby, as they say. Bubba top Toyota. I felt really good about that. I wish I had something else because he rewarded me. He was just not as good as Denny Hamlin and, frankly, Christopher Bell. So happy with that. Cole Custer, no, it wasn't there. That's okay. It's Cole Custer. I bet that because it was 14-1. And Blaney, honestly, when the long runs happened, was making up track position. Obviously, doing the getting off cycle early helped him a lot. But when we had the long runs in stage 2 and stage 3, he was making up track position. He just couldn't quite get there at the end, and honestly had a worse finish than I think majority of his day would have suggested.
Yeah, and I think too, a lot of the reason why he wasn't able to move through the field is not only kind of the track position that he put himself into, but also as the track cooled down, as it started to get later into the day, I think the tires had less of an effect on your ability to maybe separate from guys. And then also, when you look at these tires, you really needed, those 60, 70 lap runs, even 80 lap runs to really see a differentiation between the guys and their tire management in traffic in particular. And we didn't really get those, especially in stage 3 when we had all those consecutive cautions that came out. And when that started happening, I started to realize to myself, well, Blaney's dead, especially as he's riding back there in like 11th or 10th place. I didn't think there was a way he could get to the front, especially with how strong Hamlin was.
Yeah. Hamlin was just like, he was milking it, saving those tires, and then when he needed to turn it on, he was 10 seconds, and he was adding time. He was way out in front. As I did, Brian had Hamlin both outright and top 5. I bet him outright, or bet him top 5 personally. The number by the time I got to update it wasn't worth a while, but obviously he gets there. The very top 10, I think, was fine. He had a weird race on Sunday, so
well, yeah, like had he not been part of the kerfluffle on pit road between him and Bubba, when Bubba like slammed in the perfect spot to ruin his battery. Josh Berry was going to have
Star Wars when they like randomly put it in the if you just hit it off this little hole, then
it's like the scene in A New Hope when Luke is flying the X-wing and he takes off the radar and just shoots it in the perfect spot to blow up the Death Star. That's basically how Bubba Wallace hit Josh Berry's car, and that ruined his day in what was going to look like a very competitive day for the 21 car, as he had led 40 laps up until that point and was looking like a shoo-in to win stage 1 had he not pit and stayed out with the rest of the other guys.
Yeah, and like obviously we think he was going to win? Probably not, but a top 10?
We did, like the thing though with Berry is and especially at a lot of these tracks, clean air, track position, who knows? Berry is known for being a short track maven.
Well, they were even saying on the broadcast this is where he made his money, so
and one last thing on Berry as well, like going back to that race, I don't know why I found myself still doing this. Maybe there was some hope that he would get back on the lead lap and this bet would still be alive, but I kept monitoring his lap times, and despite him being multiple laps down, he was running comparable times to the top 5 or 8 guys pretty much the entirety of the day after that whole situation happened. So clearly I think I was on the right side in that spot, but sometimes the NASCAR gods don't let the chips fall your way.
Yep. Over on DraftKings, it was another productive week thanks to our friends over at Win the Race. Their sims are awesome. Their Discord is popping both Saturday and Sunday. It was a really fun week. Good week in the cash streets, but tournaments were also strong. Obviously, having Denny was super important. Chastain was really good. I thought he was even better than the 6th place car. Our guy Ryan Preece, I thought he was dead in the water, and he ended up not only coming back from being stuck with the squirrels, but finishes in the top 10. So good for him.
Dude is a grinder, man.
Ty Dillon finished top 15. Obviously, if we didn't go with Cole Custer there, we have a much better day. So overall, really solid. The other lineups didn't go so well. The Byron stuff was, I think, the most frustrating for me. And I know he has these races where he sometimes gets stuck and can't really move forward, but I know he was moving. I'm trying to remember what happened, but I know he was moving forward and looked strong at one point, but never quite got there. Chase Elliott was good. Denny was really good. Blaney was strong. Bosavar was pretty solid, moved up 10 spots. Cody Ware was whatever, you punt him, but you need, I think if lineup has Hamlin instead of Byron and then maybe something else instead of Cole Custer, we have a much better week.
I'm pretty sure William Byron had a penalty at the first caution, which put him kind of behind the 8 ball there. I didn't take as many notes as I normally do during the race because I wasn't feeling all the greatest, but I do recall, and I have it written down here, Byron penalty ? That he did sustain a penalty during that first caution.
Yeah, and Christopher Bell ended up being much better than we expected. Obviously had a strong day. Blaney, strong day. Tyrone Gibbs, not so much, but that's okay. And then once again, I built a couple single entries late into the early hour or early on Sunday morning. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, like 1 o'clock at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. It crushed. I had what was this one? This one was I had two lineups. One was top 16, one was top 20 or something. This one obviously did pretty good in the single entries. So Todd Gilliland was really good. Like 20% for a guy who's sub 6K is a lot, but he rewarded us. That obviously the Custer SVG stuff didn't work out too well. And then this is 16th out of what was this one? This was the 8K single entry. And so Blaney, Denny, Bell, Bubba Wallace, who was really good, Gilliland, and then Ty Dillon. So really, really strong. Feeling like between win the race and our discussions and all that good stuff, it's really starting to come around. So second week in a row, I basically taken my money and like almost tripled up. So feels good. And that's why you play the cash to go along with the tournament. So even if you get skunked there, you have some running and some flexibility and all that good stuff. So big week on DraftKings, obviously, as you can see. Oh, hide that, Brian. I guess I can just do this. I'm up 17, almost 18 units. Brian went from in the red to in the green, almost 8 units. Obviously, hitting an outright will help with that. But
Yes.
really, really good couple weeks. And now we head to Darlington. Anything else from Martinsville that you want to hit on before we shift focus and talk a little Darlington?
Yeah, I mean, again, this was talked about at length prior to us going green on Sunday, and maybe something I discounted a little bit too much, but the fact that the spring and fall Martinsville races are such dramatically different lengths has a massive effect on the long runs and of these races. And that's probably why a guy like Blaney, for instance, who had he not lost track position on pit road multiple times, which has become all too frequent this year and something he's dealt with over the last couple of years, maybe he was able to stay it up front this year or this race. But looking back on it, his strength is in those extended long green flags, which we get more of in the fall race for the playoffs. So something to keep in mind as we go back there and we close out the round of 8 later in the season.
Yeah, I'm gonna be curious what they price him at. My guess is he might even be shorter than what we saw this time, but
yeah,
we'll see. Let's turn the page and talk a little Darlington. So I'll pull up Caesars. I have Fanduel ready to go as well. I was really hoping Odds Checker or Action Network or something would have their odds sorted out by
they stink.
Thursday or Wednesday.
Yeah, I don't even know what day it is, honestly.
I know. It's all blending together. But we have odds, so we can talk through them, and we can see if we can make a bet. I have yet to fire. I think you have a couple things on the card, but it's usually nice to have that bankroll after a big win, and you want to get back to it. But I'm also happy that I'm being really patient, not just shooting at stuff that doesn't show value or isn't really coming up roses, at least as of now. So we'll see if we can make a bet or two before the end of this episode. Kyle Larson is the favorite. Then it's Denny Hamlin. Then it's Ryan Blaney. It's Tyler Reddick. It's William Byron. And that's your inside 10-1. Similar ideas here over at FanDuel. Obviously, you can get a little bit better numbers on some of these guys. Are you jumping in at anyone inside 10-1?
Well, I think the exercise we've kind of done over the last few weeks has worked out for us in terms of just trying to find early pre-practice and qualifying value. And when you look at this odds board and you account for the fact that in the Gen 7 era, we've had 6 different winners coming from 5 different teams here at Darlington, it's really hard to pinpoint who the hell's the favorite here? And the amount of variance that we see at the track. For instance, Kyle Larson, who is the favorite, probably rightfully so. He's led the most laps here in the Gen 7 era. He only has 2 top 10 finishes in these 6 races, and that's because of his propensity to get into the wall or get involved with somebody racing for a lead when he can just give up a spot and then try to get him back on the next corner. Like, this is a track that is very difficult to maintain track position. It's hard to pass. You saw it last spring when Tyler Reddick tried to get crazy and dive underneath Buescher and ran both of them into the wall, handing Brad Keselowski the win here. So it's really hard to get involved at these shorter numbers. That being said, as I preached before at the very beginning of that little tangent, William Byron at 9-1 to me is the best pre-practice and qualifying number of these guys, simply because of the fact that when you look at all of the metrics, you go to iFantasy Race, he does the next gen speed rankings here at Darlington. William Byron ranks top 7, I believe, in all 6 visits to the track Too Tough to Tame. William Byron is a guy who's going to qualify well. He's almost always qualifying inside the top 10 here. And when you look at the fact that 4 of our 6 winners at Darlington and Gen 7 have all started on the front 2 rows, you know that early track position is going to matter. And you know that his pit crew is also one of the best in the sport. So factoring all of that in, he's really the only guy inside these single digits that I'm even willing of getting involved in before seeing what the guys bring to the track on Saturday for practice.
Yeah, I saw 10 pop on our favorite offshore, and I almost jumped on it and then drug my feet and then didn't get it. I'm okay. I think I'd rather be a little more cautious and miss out on a few numbers at this point than be overly aggressive and firing on stuff that I actually don't really like that much. I also, as Byron is very compelling, and I texted you, I think, on Monday.
Yeah.
He's going to be on my card. I just haven't figured out how. He's weird because he doesn't feel like a dramatic mover ever. Like, if he comes out and is amazing in qualifying and practice and, you know, is starting in the front row and opens up 650, 750, like, I feel like this is as far as he would move. Maybe he's still 8-1, but at least I know what I'm getting. Like, I'd rather bet him at that point. If I'm looking at 9, but yeah, I'm with you. He's definitely compelling. Obviously, Reddick's compelling, but you know, at Homestead, Larson felt like a slam dunk given his ability there. Last week, obviously, we got in on Blaney, and that was probably dumb. I don't know. He didn't qualify like we expected, but he was still really good in practice. And
that's the thing. And that's the thing. So, like, on the Blaney aspect at Martinsville, like, obviously you can look back on that with revisionist history and say, oh, that was a stupid bet. But we got a number that was not really available post practice and qualifying outside of after the market had taken on a ton of money, like immediately before we went green. So,
and this is when he qualifies 32nd.
Exactly my point.
13th, and he just like was whatever. Like, his number got shorter after qualifying, even though he was qualified in 32nd.
Yes, and I think to your point about Darlington, though, and kind of how I talked about like the amount of variances that's at this track, you were talking about Byron, and I 100% agree with you that his number is not really going to move a whole bunch, even if he looks fantastic, because the books already know guys like Kyle Larson and Tyler Reddick, who are able to run the wall, which is the preferred and basically only line to make speed here at Darlington. Unless they absolutely suck in practice and say they wreck and they look like shit also, they're not going to move off of their spots. And if they account for the front 2 spots in qualifying, everybody else is either going to stay or perhaps get longer post practice and qualifying. So, you know, that's the only reason why Byron is of any interest to me. And honestly, it's the reason why I've only made 2 outright bets ahead of this personally, and they're both at extended numbers. They're both like considered longer shots at for this race.
Yeah. And like I said, like the last 2 weeks, we've definitely got in early, and I don't mind getting in on these early, on the shorter numbers early, if there is perceived value. And if you want to bet Kyle Larson, like, See if you can get the 5. I'm not gonna blame you, but I'm personally not getting involved, at least as of right now. Let's talk kind of that next range because I think that's where we may be ready to dive in. So Bell, 12, Logano 14, Briscoe 15, Bubba 16, Kyle Busch 18. I'll even include some of these 20s. Like Bubba's interesting, but I want better than 16. I'm not betting Chase Briscoe. Like, I don't trust him. I know this is a place where Truex has been good. I know this is a place where Briscoe's been good in lesser equipment. Logano, whatever. Bell obviously was really good, but I just like kind of in that like 12 to 28 range. Is there a name in there that you want to shout out?
Well, so the first guy that I thought about this week, the first name that I wanted to search out to see what the number was available was our guy Bubba Wallace. Now, 16 is not really a spot that I think I could find myself getting on. He is available at 18 at BetMGM currently as we're recording this, and I will add that to the card. I got 20 over in Vegas, and I know he did open at 20, I believe, at Caesars, or maybe it was MGM. I don't know, but that got bet down rather quickly. But when you look at the speed that the 23 has brought to the table at all of the intermediates so far this year and the short tracks and everywhere that we've gone, and then you factor in how good he's looked on Saturdays in the Gen 7 era here at Darlington, I do not see a world where this number is anywhere near available post-practice and qualifying. I mean, you're looking at now the books are starting to realize like this is a guy who, if he has track position, he can keep it there. So I think especially at that 18 to 20 spot, this is probably going to 14 post-practice and qualifying. And yes, if you want to wait, that's fine. And a lot of people won't even play 14 on Bubba just based on perception.
Yeah, I think if you can get anywhere close to 20, I like it. But I'm also in he's kind of like he's the next level Byron, where even if he's awesome in practice and awesome in qualifying, it might shorten a little bit. And maybe it's 14, but at least at that point, okay, he's awesome. I'll jump in at 14. I'm not betting 16 right now. If he looks really good on Saturday, I will happily bet 14 or even 12. But
let me just I considered 16 very strongly had I not been able to get down on that 20, because 2311 and Toyota in particular has been a qualifying machine here at Darlington, claiming the pole in the last 4 visits. 2311's worst best qualifying spot at Darlington is 3rd. So they're likely putting one or maybe both of these cars on the front 2 rows come Saturday. And this type of track is one of Wallace's best. And then when you account for the fact that we haven't seen the first Darlington race be this close proximity to a Homestead race, which the 2 tracks, although dissimilar, are as close as you're going to get to each other in terms of tire wear, the high line being their preferred line. And so I don't know about a lot of other people in the space, but I'm definitely leaning into what we saw at Homestead as more of an indication as to the speed of guys that we should expect to see here at Darlington this weekend. And then when you factor in past performances, that just adds to my optimism of a guy like Bubba here this weekend.
Does that add to your pessimism of a guy like Chase Briscoe, who was basically ass at Homestead?
It doesn't help. I will say that. Like, I understand that Briscoe was really strong here last year. And I mean, obviously he won the Southern 500. He's probably the best car that day, but there is definitely something to Briscoe's comments of saying that the Toyotas are set up differently than the Fords, and him still trying to get acclimated to that type of stuff and get more in tune with how the car drives than I think people are making. And so I have zero interest in getting in at Briscoe at this price. There's too many new stuff happening for the 19 team. Whereas Bubba, yeah, he's got a new pit crew chief, but like Clearly, those two are hitting
Theory,
on all cylinders. He is
yeah,
driving at maybe his best that we've ever seen, and he's driving with a mentality like we've never seen from him ever as well.
yeah. And Fox was doing a good job in the broadcast talking about the change at crew chief, how well they're getting together, the kind of relationship they're already building, and as you mentioned, his pit crew is still the same basic guys, and they've actually been one of, if not the best crew
Yeah, exactly.
this season. So the crew chief has clearly brought a new perspective to the team, but he's getting the most out of the crew, out of the pit crew. Bubba's taking advantage of that, and he's producing even at tracks that you wouldn't traditionally find him. So he's clearly taken a step forward, which is great to see. And maybe when we're talking, as we approach the playoffs, his numbers have been cut significantly when he qualifies well. I'm still going to be patient on him, but he is somebody, especially if you can get like 20 or 18, I would be in. 16, I feel like is just too easily available, and I'd rather wait to get. I'd rather bet 14 or 12, knowing he's awesome, than have him struggle a little bit and then he floats out to a much more palatable number. Is there anyone else, as we kind of scroll down the board, that you think maybe lock in some of that CLV now, don't actually have a chance to win the race, but when we're talking Saturday night are at half their odds, of 2/3 of their odds, something like that?
Well, I mean, clearly this is going to be disgusting and something I'm not going to bet personally, just because I've been burned too many times already this year. I mean, won too many times, and Ty Gibbs at 55-1. Going back to what I was saying about Toyota's qualifying results here and him having shown speed at Darlington last year as well.
Speaking of another guy who showed speed on Saturday at Homestead.
Look, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if you
No.
want CLV, I think Ty Gibbs fits the mold perfectly. But, when you're looking at potential race winning, I think guys like Chris Buescher and Ross Chastain are probably the first two that come to mind, but neither qualifies all that great. And Chastain, as a matter of fact, has been qualifying as bad as he ever has in the Gen 7 era so far in 2025. So for me, I just don't see his number moving at all. And he's definitely somebody I have on my radar as a post-practice ad, but with how bad he's been on Saturday on that one lap, I have zero interest in playing him in pretty much anything prior to seeing this car hit the track.
Yeah, and Gibbs, at least on Sunday, was able to bring a lot of that speed that he showed on Saturday. It wasn't Homestead where he was just useless after looking incredible. So we'll see. I could definitely see us talking, and it's 28 instead of 50.
Yeah, and I think as you just kind of said, a lot of people were complaining about the new qualifying format and it's not fair, blah 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 blah. But when you look at the way that it's separated out this week as we head to Darlington, the only guys that are going in the first group that I think you can actually consider contenders here at Darlington are maybe the names Alex Bowman, Brad Keselowski to a lesser extent. I don't see it this week. And then, Josh Berry, who had a poor finish result because of the incident with Bubba. But then in Group B this week, like, it's the who's who of contenders heading to Darlington. And you're really going to be able to see and compare lap times as they're all running together in practice. And so you're going to be able to tell, like, oh, is this guy as good as this guy for us betting post-practice and qualifying spots? And that also plays into how you're going to have to start approaching these pre-practice and qualifying bets, knowing that if these guys are all practicing in the same group together, the books are going to be seeing this as well. And you're not going to be able to get away with them missing on a guy because he practiced in Group A versus Group B, where the track was of different nature and all that stuff. And so Ty Gibbs, first opportunity to practice with the elite of the elite this week in Group B. So we're really going to be able to see, is his car comparable to the top echelon guys? And with him in that second group, I do think he has a strong possibility of, say, qualifying well, looking good in practice, and seeing that number get dramatically cut, which obviously I don't know. If you were to ask me if he's going to win, I'm going to say no. But at 55-1 or 60, whatever number you can possibly get in at, I think it's good CLV.
Are we betting him at 35 if he looks like a rocket?
I mean,
Do you have
I
any
don't see
interest
why
in
not.
the,
Like, I might nibble on it.
yeah, do you have any interest in the Denny boost or the Bell boost? 750 or 14?
Much more in Christopher Bell, but we already talked about it. I have a hard time getting in on anybody in that single digit range this week.
Yeah. Win the Race is showing value on both of these, just slightly. So if you
I
really
do like Denny a lot this week, though. This is a place that he's been really good at.
Yeah, if you really like Denny, you really like Bell, this is a good week to get in on there. I was gonna look at qualifying or something, but they don't. I don't know. They're just dragging their feet this week. It's not like it's Masters week or something.
Well, they do have qualifying. Remember, you got to hit the hidden.
Oh, that's right. Got to go to the speakeasy, as our guy full tank with Bill would say.
Yeah, yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. They do. I don't see it.
Yeah, it's up on the top, buddy. You got to just click on group, and then it'll move the. There you go.
Oh yes. Okay. Anything we like here? Bubba's 5-1 this week. We better.
Yeah, because the books know Bubba's going out the fifth to last, and as I talked about, 23-11 has been fast as hell on Saturdays at Darlington.
Byron at 8, Briscoe at 10. Yeah, there's nothing. Ty Gibbs at 20. Ty Gibbs is in group 2, right?
Ty Gibbs at 20 is not terrible. Yeah, he is in the second group, going out second in the second group, but I don't hate that.
Yeah. It's like betting first round leader in golf for a guy that you know can't actually win the tournament, but should come out looking good initially.
Man, now you got me really, really contemplating this right here. That's actually a decent spot.
What I'm saying. Does our favorite offshore have qualifying yet?
No, I looked. Don't worry. Yeah, and I will also add, I feel like the books, when they initially opened up markets this week, they were squeezing the shit out of everything, just trying to get as much handle on crappy lines as possible before starting to adjust based on handle that was actually taken in.
All right, I'm adding it.
Oh,
Tyrone,
God.
put it on the poll.
That would be ridiculous.
Let's see here. Manufacturer. I always like to look at the top markets. So Larson 140, Byron 320 is fine. Let's see if there's any value what our friends over at Win the Race.
Let me just also point out, so going back to how I was talking about Darlington is a very high variance track, very similar to super speedways. There's only one guy in the Cup Series who has top 5 in 50% of the Gen 7 era races, and that's Tyler Reddick. And only 4 guys have top 10 in 4 of the 6 races at this track, meaning that for the majority of the field, it's a 50% or worse clip at top 10ing here at Darlington in the Gen 7 era, making me lean towards not playing very much, definitely pre-practice, and even post-practice, making sure that I'm getting paid out on whatever I'm betting.
Is there any interest in Hendrick, Joe Gibbs, or 2311 to win the race? I mean, I can pull it up on Caesars to see what the...
It would definitely be predicated on the price for those.
Let's see. Winning car. Where is it on here?
I think it's manufacturer.
But it's race team.
Oh, yeah, then maybe they don't have it.
Finish, maybe?
Sports books love not dropping everything.
Yeah, people are probably screaming at us, being like, it's right there. Winning team. Here we go. So Hendrick is 210. JGR is 290. 2311 is 5-1. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, you get both Bubba and Tyler Reddick.
Yeah, I guess it might be better just to
I think you'd have to price that out, but
yeah, it'd probably be better just to do like $60 on Reddick, 40 on Gibbs, or on Bubba, and just or even 70.
yeah, because I don't think Herbst can be factored into that conversation at all.
No.
And then I have zero interest in that Penske one because I don't think Logano is going to compete. And as much love as Ryan Blaney is receiving this week, rightfully so, he's been incredibly fast. Dude has 2 career, not 2 in the next gen era, 2 career top 10s in 16 trips to Darlington.
That's not good.
Look, you can say that that's a lot of bad luck, but at some point that runs out and it becomes a legit trend of a guy just not being able to find a way to finish with good results at a specific track. And that's definitely the area that I lean. When you have that amount of data to go by, this is not one of Ryan Blaney's better areas. And so I for one, as much as I like YRB, I'm not on his side this weekend unless he shows up with an absolute rocket and has track position to begin the race.
What about 2311 against Team Penske?
So I was waiting for us to get to this spot because I am going to play this exactly for that reason. And the fact that Tyler Reddick has quite possibly been the strongest or one of the strongest cars at this track and it since joining 2311.
It feels good to be back. We're back on Team Tyler Reddick this week. He's always been that guy, but
yeah. But yeah, I just think when you weigh the strengths of these guys, of the 2 and 2, again, Cindric and Herbst are complete throwaways in this conversation. But when
the
you weigh the
one, I know it's juicy, but
it's totally worth it though. Like in terms of race winning potential, give me Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace over Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano at this track every day, all day, every year.
I was wondering if the head-to-head tool featured manufacturers, but it does not seem to be the case.
I think you can do that when you look at like the manufacturer thing.
I don't see it, but maybe. Yeah, I like the Hendrick versus JGR, and I like the 2311.
Yeah, and I think something else too. So personally, I did play a Denny Hamlin over Ryan Blaney matchup at our favorite offshore. Hamlin was minus 105 in that. And I think just again, going back to the strengths and weaknesses at particular tracks and current track form, and then looking at Homestead, where yes, Ryan Blaney was probably the fastest car, but Denny was also a top 3 to 5 guy. When you factor all that in, I don't think Denny should have been the underdog in that matchup. They definitely should have been priced. I mean, ideally you want to see even, but books aren't going to do that. But it should have been minus 110 both ways. So I'm going to take a little bit of the positive juice with Denny and the fact that he's going out last in qualifying too. So maybe he puts it on the pole and try to eat the post-practice, CLV there as well.
Yeah, and our friends over at Win the Race show a ton of fair value on that bet. So obviously you moved it to minus 115 on either side. We'll see if I find a way to get down on that as well.
Honestly, I feel like that's still a good bet just because in the same breath that we were, say, taking at Homestead, I believe it was you played Blaney plus 120 over Larson pre-practice, and then it was Larson plus money versus Blaney pre-practice, and then post-practice it was like Blaney over Larson or something of that nature. When guys are so close to being even in terms of overall speed, but you think you have a good leverage play with one guy, I think you gotta play the one side.
I've bet more money on Denny Hamlin this year than I have in like the previous, I think 3 or 4 years we've done this, which is insane.
Hey, as somebody who's holding a large ticket on under 3.5 wins, last week was not what I wanted to see, but I'll take it in terms of my bank account right now.
Ty Gibbs plus 120 versus Kyle Busch.
Yeah, that's been a very heavily talked about matchup in the space so far, and yeah, I don't mind nibbling at that either.
Yeah, I'm betting that for sure.
Oh
I
no!
love this. This is so good. We're back to being all Tyler Reddick stands. I'm betting Ty Gibbs to beat people and
Oh, you
win the
have 2
whole.
Gibbs bets now. You know what? Look, we ain't here to play it safe, and obviously, do not tail everything that we play. Like, use your best judgment. Everybody has their own ways that they go about betting. Like, clearly, I don't show all the bets that I actually make outside of the show. Believe me, my card is much larger than this. But yeah, I'm going to add that Gibbs outright at 55 for a tiny little bit.
He's ruining him, folks. Fade him everywhere.
I'm a glutton for punishment, but I feel like that number is not going to be around. Yeah, DraftKings has it too.
Yeah, you can get it at DraftKings too.
Where was that 55 number on Gibbs? Was that FanDuel?
Take a peek.
50 at FanDuel. Or was it Caesars?
It's not Caesars. Maybe it was MGM.
Oh, it's 50 at Caesars. It's 40 at MGM now.
Wow. Moving lines without even betting it. It's crazy.
I didn't even bet it.
Exactly.
Still, all right. He's 50. I'll bite at the 50 number for a tiny play. That's what I'll put on here. Just for some CLV to. Let's see. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not going to hit now, especially because we're very high on Gibbs this weekend.
Honestly, after last week's Denny Love, I thought we were cooked before we could even start, and it all came to fruition. Maybe that's just the NASCAR gods getting back to us, but yeah. Anything else you want to look at? Anything else that interesting to you?
All right. So the other bet that I have on the card, which you got a little sneak preview of as we kind of transition, but I'm going to throw a dart play on our buddy, 83 top 10, 11-1 on FanDuel. Hear me out.
Aaron.
Austin Dillon's best 3 career tracks are all intermediate, high wear. Fontana, Homestead, Miami, Darlington. Darlington is his second best active track with an average finish of 15.2. His 5 career top 10s here, I believe, are tied for the 10th most amongst active drivers. If you ignore the utter shit show that was 2023 and the early parts of last year, his average finish, I believe, was something like just outside of the top 12. Very similar to the statistics that he had at Homestead going into that race as to the reason why we played his top 10 at like 7-1 there, 9-1 there. And he's been pretty good at practice and qualifying pace the last couple of weeks, or maybe not qualifying, but practice pace has looked pretty good the last few races from RCR, in particular, the 3 car. So at 11-1, this is a price that I could definitely see getting much shorter, especially with it being currently like 6 or 7 at most other books. And Dylan is a guy who is notorious of being that like 8th through 14th place runner / finisher, as evidenced by his freaking 13th or whatever it was at Homestead when he was running inside the top 10 pretty much the entirety of the last stage before dying off and barely missing out on a top 10. So I'm going to throw a little dart on this again. I think this number gets much shorter, maybe even cut in half post-practice and qualifying on Saturday, and take a risk at it at a number that pays off tremendously.
And so something to note with some of these like longer top 10 bets, especially, or winning manufacturer, make sure you're getting the big number. Like our
Yes,
favorite offshore has 450 right now. That's not a bet. You need double digits on him to get a top 10. So don't take it just to take it. Take it because it's the right number. Um,
exactly.
Even what was it, 2 weeks ago? Last week with Custer, it was 950 at Caesars, and it was 14 at Fanduel, and those were both
Yeah,
fine. But everywhere else was like sub 6, sub 5, and that's not worthwhile. So make sure you're always shopping. And if you get like a garbage number from whatever books you have to bet from, don't take it. Make them give you the good number. So, um, anything else you want to look at? I know this is we've only gone about 45 minutes, but I think between the way we're feeling and the lack of positive numbers to look at, I think I'm pretty comfortable wrapping it up here. But is there anything else that I may have missed, or any other bets that you want to shout out before we close up shop and get ready for next week's, or get ready for the weekend?
yeah. No, I think we went over all the stuff that we wanted to kind of talk about here. Obviously, Darlington, one of those tracks that, I mean, the freaking nickname says it all. The track too tough to tame.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's really difficult to handicap this race because you don't know how the cautions are going to fall. You don't know who's going to clip the wall and get that Darlington stripe, or break a toe link as a result, or as we saw 2 years ago, brake rotors explode with the Toyotas that one year. So there's a lot of variance that can occur here. It's the reason why our cards are a little bit lighter than what I think I've been doing traditionally prior to practice and qualifying. Even personally, this is probably the lightest card I've had outside of the super speedways. So yeah, shop
Yeah,
shop the
the
numbers,
last
get the best number available, and pay attention to practice this week for
the
sure.
last couple weeks I've been super cautious, and it's been amazing. So I'm going to keep that trend going and be patient, and bet better, even if it's a little bit shorter after practice. Have a lot more information, feel more comfortable firing. So I do have Ty Gibbs to put it on the poll, and I have Ty Gibbs to beat Kyle Effin Busch. Brian has Bubba at 18 and Gibbs at 50. He also has 83 stacks to top 10. And then the 2311. I'm actually going to join you on that too. I think that's a good bet at the number. But we'll see post practice. Ryan Blaney will probably put it on poll, and Joey Logano will look like somebody who's going to get in front of everybody and shut it down. Brian and I will be back as always Saturday night. We're both home for a while, which is crazy. Obviously, it's good to be home when you're falling apart and you're old and feeling decrepit. But we'll be hanging out. If you missed the draft, which was last night, if you're watching this now, over on the Win the Race YouTube channel, go check that out. I'll have it linked in the description. Really fun episode where they draft fantasy, basically teams, and then they do a really cool payout at the end where the winner gets to pick a charity and they make a donation. So check that out. Join us for in the chat and all that stuff for that one.
Don't forget about
Uh,
deposit
what's that?
match up to $100, AOP 25. Fantastic matchups, and also like over under placement results for specific drivers. And if you get in there early, you can get some decent numbers.
Yeah, and they also do some like promos. So like they had Kyle Larson to top 10 last week, which ended up being a good bet. Because obviously he didn't have the amazing race, but he was definitely a top 10 guy. So our grid rival picks once again hit the skids, but Brian was able to find a few winners to put together. So we'll have those up on our completely free newsletter, aoppodcast.substack.com. Once again, aoppodcast.substack.com. That's down in the description as well. Gets in your email inbox every race day, so I highly recommend going to subscribe to that now. That way, come race day, you are ready to rock and roll. That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you Sunday morning as we prep for the Goodyear 400 live from Darlington. We'll talk to you next time.